Welcome to the Lockdown Podcast. We are here to continue to dive in head first into the deep waters of WWE. There is a lot going on, as always, and we are going to get to our thoughts on things. I wouldn't say a deep dive into the rumor roundup that a lot of the YouTube channels have. We don't have that much time to sit and pick apart all the interviews. So we're just gonna spit it from what we feel, what we think. Maybe some pipe dreams just for S and Gs. But we'll do what we do. So we have Monday Night Raw, which we have this weird kind of meeting of the minds, I guess you could say, with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. And for once, it went the way like it would make more sense to, right? Because now it seems to be versus Seth being pissed at CM Punk, and then they kind of both did their own thing, and now we're coming back, but Punk's like, well, I'm not about this anymore. And obviously, I feel like we're just gonna get this match just to like have it be dealt with, as most stories do. And I feel like it's gonna be short term. I don't think it's gonna be long term. Um, and obviously, and then you throw the wrench in with Sami Zayn, interjecting into the whole confrontation, which kind of throws a wrench in it. Um, just given that you know Sammy makes valid points, and so does Seth. So it's a weird moment when you have a lot of stuff makes sense from a long term point, like the fact that Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins do go back, quite a bit of time into the Indies, pre WWE, and so it's a very large circle moment because you essentially have you have these two that have come up together, they've done well, independently, but now we have this confrontation. And we got the match obviously at the end of the night. Obviously we'll get to that, but I mean, do you guys really think there's much to be had with this confrontation with Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, CM Punk, just because like we've had the storylines like level down and other stories level up? Like, do you see this really much depth to any of this?
I think it was just a one-off. Let's just have it out. It's fodder. For the night. It just fills in the time for the night, and it gives us a good transition into new feuds. Um, so it's one of those like one-off matches. Like, you know, there's a confrontation, there's conflict. Let's just settle it tonight. Then this will transition to our next story arcs, and and going
That
that out.
that's the way I think it too. Plus, on top of it, with Seth and CM Punk sitting there, like definitely, you could definitely tell they're actually throwing real hands at each other, and I could see them having a match, not at the Elimination Chamber. It'd probably be the next at the Royal Rumble, maybe.
I don't think they're going to get booked out that far. I feel like most likely, we'll get the CM Punk Seth Rollins to run back, at Elimination Chamber. I think we'll get it dealt with and we'll move on because, CM Punk at this moment is basically getting pushed, into a different category than Seth is right now. He's already doing pre finger points to the WrestleMania sign. So that's where he wants to go. And Seth Rollins is really just not that thing he's just done with. And I'm all for that. I feel like they had their moment. And obviously there's genuine hatred. Like, I watched the Seth Rollins interview and there's legit hostility. So like although we get this like kayfabe down version of what they're doing, but like there is actual genuine you know dis whatever between the two. But so next we had Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez defeating Damage Control. I'm not really invested in that whole nonsense, honestly. I think the fact that they're lessening the impact of Damage Control and basically jobbing them out to basically Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I'm not even invested. I don't even really want to talk about it. Honestly, I think we should just move on because like, I just think there's just sometimes there's storylines that seem to be week to week stuff, and I'm just like, they're gonna put Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus anybody, and they're gonna win, and la da da, life goes on. We all, we have outside interference for days. It's getting complacent. It's getting boring, and it just continues to water down Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez being dominant, or at least for Liv Morgan. Like I buy into Raquel Rodriguez being a badass. I don't buy into Liv Morgan being relevant when it comes to power for power game. So we had Rhea come out and basically kind of re-injure her eye, as it were. I don't buy too much validity of it, just given how she kind of came back from it and, the whole War Games thing. And I think this is just it was relevant enough for her to come back for War Games, but I feel like there's actually something there. And I think basically rehashing the injury is just going to kind of give her more time to fully recoup from an actual injury. That's just my take on it. I mean, it's, I'm sure she probably had a legit injury. I mean, when you do that headbutt enough times, I mean, you're going to eventually connect. So now we basically started with the whole tournament, with the whole IC women's title thing. I mean, I don't know like what the overall plan is. I mean, like we said, because we don't want to like overstuff championships, but at the same time, like we kind of need these secondary workhorse titles to kind of move around a little bit more versus, us getting here and there matches for, the top tier women's titles. I mean, the women's tag teams have been kind of mid at best. And obviously being Jade's out, so what are they supposed to do with that? Right. And so there's a million questions for that. But there's not even really been anything really released in regards to it, because we've had times in the past where they've had to like relinquish the title because they don't have the other person, or does she bring in someone else? Or do we find out like the person that maybe gets put with Bianca Belair is actually the one that took out Jade Cargill? I mean, that would seem like the thing that would make the most sense to me, is that someone got sick of Jade Cargill getting the limelight, and I don't
blame them.
I actually think it's going to be a heel turn for Bianca Belair.
It might have been her.
Yeah. It just smells so much like what WWE would do. They kind of
have been showing it,
and it's par for the course for them to do that. It's just like, Bianca's tired of carrying her, so that's the way they want to break them up and let Jade go and do Jade stuff, and Bianca be a heel or whatever have you. It just smells so much of like a WWE thing, because if it was because if it was like someone who had beef with like both Jade and Bianca, wouldn't that person like be messing with Bianca now? So it just to
I
me
mean,
it just smells
it
like
would
it, you
seem
know.
like the most like outlandish logical thing, but obviously, we have a plethora of, people, maybe there's a returning person coming back and they're the ones that did it, but they haven't been presented. I mean, we do sometimes have these, semi, a little bit beyond short term storybooking where something happens and then let's say, you know, I don't know how long Jade's going to be out. I mean, we obviously have, only two PLEs, before the end of the year. And then we're basically one PLE in, and then we're to Royal Rumble, and we're on our way to WrestleMania. So I don't know where there's a spot to like have this person get revealed. But obviously, I mean, they can they can have the show like if you've ever watched it pre-recorded, you'll like see how like the whole thing kind of end, and then there'll be like 3 minutes in the 2-3 minutes in the window where like that's when it happens, right? And so maybe we'll get that, here in the next couple weeks. Um, but again, I mean, who knows? We don't know. We don't know what Triple H has cooking, and obviously we're on the precipice of Netflix too. So I mean, we could get something, maybe the Netflix kickoff.
I
You know,
don't know. Hopefully, this Netflix kickoff shit doesn't lag and like the Mike
that's
Tyson fight.
that's like been like the really like the biggest concern that people have. And I would be more concerned with the stories that they decide to tell and what direction they go. Um, it'll still be family friendly, but will it go back to 3 hours or will it be 2 hours? Um, or will it, or will something else transpire
and
as opposed to the whole streaming issue?
I don't
Because
know. I hate
I'm
the 2 hour Raws.
yeah, I'm on board with that too. I just think that we've been on, with this whole Raw 3 hour thing for, a decade plus. And I just when you've invested that much time in having a 3 hour show to like dial it down to two, you're like,
I feel like I
because
was watching a freaking SmackDown.
yeah, well, the thing is, and like, in SmackDown has been the 2 hour show, so like, we're we're used to the product value we get in 2 hours, you know. And so, and the nice thing about SmackDown is they don't have much downtime because, like, if
Mhm.
back when they were put it on Hulu, it would be like an hour and a half cut of a 2 hour show. So like, they were really diving into it, and it was we were used to it, they're used to the continued, everything moving in motion per se. There was not really any dead spots, but a half an hour, 35 minutes worth, But it's like when we've gotten that 3 hour package of Raw, being the flagship show, and to bring it down to 2 hours. I mean, obviously, like, it was cool because we got to see two episodes recorded, when they were here. That's cool. But, like, the same token, it's like, I would have been fine with just a good 3 hour show and that'd have been it. But, I
Sure.
mean, we'll see what Netflix does. Netflix apparently said they're not going even PG-13. So when they initially launched it, it was like, hey, we're going to be more edgy. We're going to be more this. And then all of a sudden we're like less than a month from it, and they're like, oh yeah, they're gonna dial it down. Wow.
Yeah,
Then what was
you know,
the point of going to Netflix for?
Yeah.
because they offered them billions of dollars to bring their product there. Yeah.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean, money,
you
money,
know,
money, money. But like,
I mean, just because we all have
watch it.
experienced the Attitude era, and we know how much fun the memories were. That was a different time. Now that we've got like a lot of corporate sponsors and investors into the product, they want something that's digestible to a broad community, and they want it to be family oriented because they want as much advertising dollars as they possibly can get.
Oh
So
yeah.
I mean,
It's
from that perspective, I get it, and I understand, and I accept that the product may not go back to an Attitude era, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
it,
wasn't
it,
saying
it
full blown attitude era, but like they presented it like it was gonna be something out of the norm. And like you said,
and
but if it comes down to dollars and cents, yeah, they're gonna take that paycheck. Now, like we said with the whole when the Mike Tyson fight thing happened, right? Like, are they gonna be able to handle the millions and millions of people streaming at the same time? Because
yeah,
if that's the case, dude, we're gonna get lag ass central.
I mean, I don't, I do not think that it will be an issue in the sense that it's not something that they have not resolved. That whole Mike Tyson issue is probably something where they saw where they were, where there were problems at, and they've already spun up the infrastructures to make that happen.
Right.
Uh, just a little background. I work in the tech space, and I'm loosely familiar with how those hardware and software, things get spun up and invested in. It's I
Well, and I
I
think
would
it's not
not
as
I
many
would not
millions either.
I would not be surprised if Netflix hasn't already spent the money necessary to um make that first Raw not an issue. And if there is an issue, I would say it's an outside thing that happens. Like,
Well,
uh,
and I
you know,
mean, I guess it won't be as many million. I guess if you really think about it, that
yeah,
will be streaming it versus like the Mike Tyson doing like 50, 60 million people watching it. So like, I
on
think
at
and so I
one
think
time,
when
yeah.
we're gonna have like let's say 800,000, 900,000 watching, and I think by that standard, I think it won't really affect too much. I mean, that's like
I
normal. That's like normal
Well,
Netflix streaming, anyways.
who
I
So
wouldn't
knows?
be
Who
surprised if
knows? We'll
there's
find
if
out when it happens.
uh, it- 10 million people hitting Netflix servers at the same time to watch Raw when it shows up on Netflix. Um, I think they'll be able to easily handle that. Even if it is something where it's delayed for some people by up to a minute. So,
yeah.
we're
Well,
watching
and
it real time, but someone's watching it a minute afterwards, but it's still streaming and there's no crashing or buffering or anything like
right.
that. I think it's going to be fine. It's not going to be a train wreck. And if it is a train wreck, it's because something really bad on the outside happened where, there was a hardware failure, or you know, there's some type of like third party, computer cyber attack or something like that on the servers,
Right.
that sort of thing. I believe that they learned their lesson. The product itself won't change. I think streaming will be fine. And I'm sure that if they have to, they can spin up the Peacock servers and route people over to them and still take off some of the
Yeah.
bandwidth of networks. I mean, they've learned
Well,
their
and
lesson.
I think that they're prepared for this. I mean, I think that this is, much like when YouTube went to YouTube TV, right?
Hmm.
Or Hulu went to Hulu TV and stuff like that. Like this is like they've been preparing for this. The Mike Tyson was an overload because it was a global spectacle versus WWE that's not as in depth as that amount of viewership. And so I
Yeah,
think like this is,
definitely.
and I really think Netflix is on the precipice right now of joining that, live TV situation,
Right.
I'd say, maybe let's say in the next 5, 10, let's say maybe like 3 or 4 years, maybe Netflix has Netflix TV, and maybe this is just that like cutting of the ribbon per se of
Hmm.
them branching into live TV and then trying to figure out pros, cons, and different ways to make it work.
Yeah.
And
I
and so
I
that
will say, just like the WWE, Netflix does not want to sour any advertising relationships by having that same issue with the Tyson Paul fight. So they're not gonna let the their season premiere or series
yeah,
premiere on Netflix fail because of a hardware issue. Now, if WWE shows up with half baked stories and performers that night, I mean, then that's on WWE. But any type of complaints, you gotta like take it to Netflix, and Netflix is
right.
not gonna have egg
Well,
on their
and
face, so to speak.
yeah, it's preparation. I mean,
Yeah,
it's it's like the beginning of any product. I mean, you're gonna have your pros, cons. You're gonna have your glitches to figure out. I mean, how many updates do phones do? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
if they have any issues of the first time around, they'll look into it the following time they go live
oh, they're
with
probably
either
they're probably
Raw or
working on it.
SmackDown.
Yeah,
and
they'll
I
probably be
wouldn't be
working on it right
surprised.
then.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's not like, hey, because you're a Netflix subscriber and we screwed up, you can rewatch it at any time, you know.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
mean, and
that's
it's
that's the beauty of that type of platform where you can rewatch it. I mean, it's not like USA is gonna
yeah.
like
I mean, well, just because
rebroadcast,
yeah,
a
yeah,
show.
because they ended it with Hulu, and so like
Yeah.
we're gonna get the same kind of setup, or even honestly what Peacock kind of was for a moment. Where like you're being able to watch them back a little bit, and maybe we get that. Maybe we get Peacock being a little bit more up to date. Maybe they tagline with Netflix and give those Hulu treatment to Peacock, and
Hmm.
that would kind of dial down the bandwidth of the whole
Yeah.
thing, like you said, kind of you know unloading a little bit of that. But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
Come January. So now the biggest story on Netflix with the 10th anniversary of the New Day, and it started off pretty choppy. Like Kofi and Xavier were fine, and then they were kind of like you know kind of almost seemed like they were just kind of going to end the New Day, right? And then here comes Big E, and I'm thinking, okay, like he's gonna be the peacemaker, right? He's gonna do what I've been saying. He's gonna, he's the only one that can do, for the better part of 3 months. But we get what I feel like is the heel turn of the New Day, and they basically, and the things that New Day said were valid, absolutely valid. That all these other wrestlers have broken their neck and came back, and they, in some capacity they were back, and he just left, and
you
and
know,
and again, but the thing
yeah,
is the things that Big E was saying were valid as well. It just it was kind of like this is the perfect spot for New Day to turn heel, to kind of let the New Day go back to being what the New Day originally was, X out E, and now we're going to get a meaner New Day. And maybe
I'm
that's
excited for it.
now do you think that that's kind of do you think that Final Testament's influence was the catalyst for this?
yeah,
Do you think that Karrion
yeah.
Kross was speaking things into them, to both of them, that like maybe he, off book, off anything, he was feeding them about the whole Big E thing, and when Big E came back, it was like, well, now we can say this shit to your face.
Yeah.
So
So, you know, and I think it leads into the larger Karrion Cross Final Testament story. Um, it just he's taking like a specific energy that Bray Wyatt had where anyone that had an involvement in a story with Bray Wyatt eventually like turned heel, and they had
Right.
like this negative energy about them. And
Right.
he's done that to like several people. So it's like they took an essence, or they took like a main like attribute of Bray Wyatt
A
and
Bray Wyatt recipe.
yeah, and gave it to Karrion Cross, and that's like started to bleed over to this Karrion Cross Wyatt Six story.
Right.
I really think that it should be addressed at some particular point by someone,
Hmm.
but I don't know how you go about telling that story, and I haven't like thought about it outside of just now mentioning it. But I do think it is something that could be addressed, and it could be a really great way of like, you know,
Well, it's the
tying
New
up
Day
some loose
turning. Yeah.
ends and plot holes and stuff like that, during a
Yeah.
promo or something,
It's
something
turning a
along
new
those
leaf.
lines. Yeah. So I do,
In
I do think that, yes, to answer your question, Karrion Cross did have a very
in
strong
right.
impression upon it.
Well, and and obviously he was speaking truth. I mean, because honestly, like, how they've booked this whole New Day and then Biggie getting injured and stuff like that. He's been out for, the better part of the last 4 years, and so they've had
Two,
to do it. Or how many was it?
two.
Okay, well, it felt like longer, but yeah, like I think they definitely they took that bad situation and slowly booked this moment.
Right.
And so it was only fitting for him to come back and them to basically be kind of, yeah, no. So I look forward to Monday. Maybe we get this new darker entrance from New Day. I think you sent
Oh,
a clip.
I hope so.
What was that
Yeah.
New Day clip? Was that actually real? Like, was that real or was that something made up that you sent?
I don't know. It might be made up, but I hope it's like I was telling
We don't.
Frederick. I'm
Yeah, we
hoping
won't,
it is real.
and we don't get this power of positivity BS. We're gonna
I
get
mean,
it,
I mean,
and
I personally gravitate towards those good things, but I it does make for a more dramatic story for the New Day.
um,
How do they respond after, kind of after like kicking Big E out without like physical confrontation,
right.
and
I
I
mean,
was I was surprised at how this went down, and it was, I would say it was like, it was emotionally a letdown because you wanted to see this, transpire. But then after, watching little bits of that segment, someone had posted an old interview with Paul Heyman talking to Big E, talking about, you know, your journey with a New Day will only be a footprint in, your story, you know, because
right.
it'll be so great, and the only thing I was thinking, like, if he hadn't unfortunately had this accident that has set back his career or even taken his
Yeah, I
career
don't think
away.
this would we would not be in the situation we're in now if he
Yeah.
was,
And yeah,
but
I mean, maybe
but
we would have got the New Day breakup, and it probably would have been more dramatic and
right,
more, and probably could have happened a while ago. Um,
right.
but this is what we have right now. I think I'm going to side with Big E on this because I'm just imagining in my head, like, some of the truths of it is like, hey, I would want to come back. I would want to be in this ring full time, and just taking Big E's like, you know, position on it, but you don't want to be permanently injured. What
Right,
worked for Kurt Angle might not work for Big E. You know,
right.
he's thinking like, I don't want to end up like Draws. I
Well,
take a bump and I
in
can't get back up again. And not to mention Triple H and Nick Khan, probably saying like, "Nah, bro, we don't want that liability, man. You stay
No.
around here." So it's not like if he wanted to come back, that would be one thing, and him just saying, "I want to come back, but
Well,
the bosses won't let me,"
Right.
and so I will have to watch it again fully through without and trying not to be biased or one-sided. Because I didn't want to see the New Day break up. I did want to see them get back together, but I know I was saying like if anybody was going to leave the group, it would have been Xavier Woods. I was not thinking Big E.
Well, and I thought they were gonna I thought when they brought on Odyssey Jones that we were gonna get like a revamped, and then they released the guy. But anyways, we'll see what happens Monday. So we have this moment in back, obviously, with Gunther and Finn Balor and all that jazz back, and so they basically speak into basically Dominic, and Dominic did this, this, and this. And so as opposed to getting a Finn and Gunther match, we get, Gunther and Dominic, which obviously we all know how that was going to roll. But yeah, I mean, that
Did you listen to the audience? They were chanting his name. They were cheering him on.
Yeah, rare occasion. Piped in. They piped in positive vibes for Dominic. Yeah,
quite possibly.
It's one of those things where it's like I want Gunther to just absolutely obliterate everybody, but like I also want to see a slow progression down. Because he's been champion the most of his roster runs, so like I want to see him without a title for a while. I want to see him progress through possible character changes, if any, because I feel like that's when you get like longevity for a character, when you can see them without titles and they're still relevant. Like that's when I feel like you get the more long-term career, stories. But like when your front of your career has been loaded with championships, like it's going to be really tough to watch you moving forward without titles unless they change that sooner rather than later. And because I think it's like 75% of his roster run between NXT and main roster that he's been a champion. So I want to see him, like, I'm all for him kicking the crap out of people and hitting a power bomb that's freaking crazy. I want to see all that, but I also want to see the downfall so we can see more characters down the road. But we'll wait and see. I mean, they have a recipe book. We don't know what they're cooking. We don't know how long it's gonna cook, and that's just the greatness of WWE, because they have stuff we don't even know it yet. Like,
nope,
they're gonna slowly plant seeds that they do in little Easter eggs and little bits that really the average fan wouldn't really pick up on, but we're just here for it. I'm here for whatever happens. I'm never gonna not watch the product just because I'm invested. So, but so being that we seem to love R-Truth with all of our heart. So R-Truth, I don't even like his whole thing with Pete Dunne and Butch and all that stuff. It's just good. Anything R-Truth does is good. Like, I feel like he's there to break characters on live TV.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you're not coming over
big time.
Yeah,
can't even keep a straight face with him.
I just die. I'm like, where's Butch? But so obviously he does this, quick little match with Pete Dunne. I don't really see that as really too much long-term stuff, but yeah. So main event, we have Seth freaking Rollins versus Sami Zayn, and weirdly enough, I predicted the future like I was reading a crystal ball, and I've been talking for a while of the whole, like, we have all this stuff going on. CM Punk's back, but what about Drew McIntyre? And we got our answer.
Yeah, Frederick's boy.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm in the middle.
Yep.
Literally in the middle. But no, so we get Drew McIntyre at the end of this match. Basically takes them both out. So that, I mean, I want to know what happens. I want Drew McIntyre to come out and explain himself like out the gate. Like I want this to like
Well, we all know
just
what's going
be.
to happen.
I want to be the front runner and like, and I don't know if you guys have heard the meanderings and the whistles and the quiet conversations, but like of the possible kind of a we hate Roman type of shield. Basically along the
Yep.
lines of Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. You know, I would not be against that. One, because I like them all. And two, I mean, what a proverbial like 10-year runaround moment. You know, you had the Shield being the Shield for the longest time, and you had them being the Hounds of Justice, and then obviously we fast forward now, and now we just seem to be on a different path. And I feel like now we have three people that might not like each other the best, but they hate the same person and the same faction with the same gusto. So I wouldn't. I mean, it does. I don't think it fits in the recipe, but I feel like it's not out of the realms of possibility. Just
Okay.
because, I mean, I feel like we've gotten these weird twists and turns, you know, over the last couple of years. So I feel like there seems to be less and less things that are out of like the realm of possibility to happen. So I mean, do if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, I'm not. It's whatever. But
Right.
you know, I feel like you finally have three people that just genuinely have dislike for essentially Cody now and Roman and like and Sammy and all these people, and it's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So
Right.
like the bloodline CM Punk have seemed to have mustered up a list now like that to the point that Bloodline 2.0 is not their only threat. Is not the only group of people that don't like them, right?
Right.
Because you've had such good long-term storybooking, whether it's the whole Seth hitting Roman or Sammy hitting Roman or the Usos hitting Roman and you know Cody, you know, becoming champion at WrestleMania 40 over Roman Reigns, and then Roman dips out, Roman comes back, slowly builds another, you know, back to the OG bloodline. I mean, it's been such a twist and turn just since WrestleMania. So I mean, you know, we're 9 months, 8.5 months out of WrestleMania, and like there's been so many story turns. We're just spinning. I mean, this is like a Ferris wheel, man. Just there's
Yeah.
so much going on, and I'm here for it. Just like when does it end? Like, you know, it just seems to be the same thing in a revolving door. Unfortunately, I could care less for Bloodline 2.0, with the exception of Jacob Fatu. So, you know, I think it's been really shoddy. It's been more insulting to the Bloodline, like as a whole, than anything else. Like you were not appointed with the Ulafala, you were not appointed tribal chief.
Yeah.
You did not get the blessing from the two guys that aren't here now. So the last person they christened was Roman Reigns, you know, the only tribal chief, you know, and so it's tough to take that situation seriously because like no one's buying it. No one's like when Solo goes, hey, we're the ones. No, you're not. You're the annoying ones. Okay. But we will roll on because I could rant, and you know how I love a
Yep.
ranting. So, SmackDown. So we started off with Cody, and Cody's chatting like Cody does, And then here comes Chad Gable. I thought it was a great bit.
I thought it was.
I mean, I thought it was honestly just absolutely like they were firing on all cylinders with this whole confrontation. Just basically talking about the Shorty G days or the Stardust days, and like and this is kind of a full circle to what I was talking about before, where like you have to not hold titles to develop characters for the future. And I think, Chad Gable is a prime example. Cody Rhodes is a prime example. I mean, even, if you want to go back into the archives of Drew McIntyre, you have so many characters, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, that have gone without titles, were dominant, they did their thing, and now their characters are so deep and so polished that they're viable champions, and you're going to see them for what they are because they've went through so many characters. I mean, even the Miz. Yes, people hate the Miz. Yes, I love the Miz. But I mean, you think of how much crap he went through to get where he is. I mean, we only see what's on TV. Like, unless you like dive into the archives of like documentaries of things and how things really were behind the scenes, you just take it as face value. I'm like, okay, yeah, he was hated. All right, cool. But like, you don't know like the amount of like development these characters go under. We get a polished thing on TV, but we don't see what's behind it. So, like, what do you guys buy into? Obviously, like we had, Cody and Chad later in the night or whatever, and obviously it was But I mean, where are we at now with Cody though? What's the direction of Cody short of basically looking forward 3 months, 4 months to WrestleMania? Like, what's his point? Why is he
I don't know. I'm ready for him to pretty much lose the title. I'm ready for him to lose the title and
I think it all has
titleless.
Yeah,
it's getting boring.
But that's what we all say. If the title changed hands every week, would it be relevant? Would we have time to build a character? Would we have time to invest in the stories and get people to, buy into these stories? I think we just let us get past Saturday night main event when that happens. I think that's on like the 14th.
Yeah, it's next Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday actually is the 14th.
This Saturday coming up. That's what I meant.
So let us get past that to see what we have launching us into the new year. What'll happen on Monday night Netflix, and let's just see what goes down. I think we may start to see that new Shield thing because Seth Rollins shows up. Then maybe a CM Punk shows up. Just I think that Saturday night main event will be pretty chaotic story wise, and it'll start to lead us up to like when we'll see major things happening for January. I just going back to how what I stated previously in videos is that I think his championship run has been lackluster, more so for punishment and because it can't get out of the vortex that is the bloodline storyline. It just can't escape it. And I think anyone trying to have a story as a world champion and it not involve Roman Reigns and it's going up against the whole bloodline, it's just going to be a tall task for anybody. Cody just happens to be it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really complicated because like we have essentially where we're gonna get to with Cody, but are we going like but what are we doing in between that isn't like very stale and complacent? Like that's the thing is like it's not the sense of like that I don't buy him as a champion or he's actually finally wearing the belt over his shoulder like a normal champion, not holding it like a suitcase. But like, I mean, for me, it's more like okay, you've accomplished what you need to accomplish, but like where short of him almost retiring after he loses it, just because he has a lot of star power, pun intended, but I don't see him like when he came back. The goal was to finish the story, right? And so now that we've done that, is there anything left for the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes just riding through the rest of the roster, having simplistic matches, winning and losing? Like, is there anything more? Because we had one goal coming back. We've accomplished that goal.
I think the WWE universe at large needs to be treated to the Indies heel Cody because
Oh yeah, I mean I'm waiting
that
for
character is fun. He is like the vibe I got from him was a much better Miz. A much better Miz. And I don't like the Miz. I don't like his character. And that means he's doing a fantastic job at his career, at his work. But I think that Cody, dark-haired Cody, arrogant, entitled Cody would be an interesting dynamic. Yeah, but I don't know if we'll ever get that Cody in WWE just because he is such a marketing darling and draw, and I don't know.
It's like John Cena, the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make him a bad guy. I mean, you could, but I mean, obviously John Cena's got a couple matches and he's done anyway. So like, there's really nothing left for him to do, But like, if Cody still has time, I mean, I would love to see like, okay, Cody's done what he had to do. Now Cody's gonna be a dick, right?
Right.
Like, let's unleash the prickness of the American Nightmare. How bring Goldust back. Let's have these two just be absolute, just brutal, just absolute assholes. Like, but we don't know. I mean, obviously Goldust, was a little bit, much older than him, but he did end his contract recently with AEW. So I mean, it's again not out of the realm of possibilities. Is it gonna happen? Most likely not. But you know what? Never say never in WWE. Yeah. So let's roll through SmackDown here, and then we'll kind of ponder the rest of the match card for Saturday Night Main Event. And honestly, it's the go-home show of the year, so this shit better be packed, just saying. So we better see more than just matches like you said, Frederick. We need to see like where we're going into Netflix. The Netflix era, we'll call it. Like if we're going to start packing the punches in with being on Netflix, like what is that that essentially, let's call it the pilot episode, right? Of Raw on Netflix. You gotta get me. You have to get me. You have to basically treat me like, so a while back at NXT, when all of a sudden they were competing with AEW and they brought all these crazy stars, they brought Undertaker, all these people to NXT to outrate them. So now what are we gonna do? Netflix pilot episode on, with WWE Raw on Netflix, the pilot essentially, we have to have this thing so fucking jam-packed. Like, you gotta make.
They gotta have a lot of powerhouses.
Yeah, they do. And I think that they will load that show, but let's get through SmackDown, and then we can
because we do have like a month in between main event and we have like a couple weeks before the Netflix launch, but And the Elimination Chamber, I think, is in February. I think so.
Yeah, it's in February. No, Elimination Chamber
March.
is in
March. Okay,
March
so
1st or something.
so
like that.
we got some time to
Well, let me look.
polish Netflix, we'll say. So SmackDown, we're continuing with the whole U.S. Women's title tournament. Tiffany Stratton defeats Naomi Electra Lopez. I don't even know how the bracket's even right now. Honestly, if you guys want to look at the bracket and see how it even lays out, but
March 1st for the Elimination Chamber.
yeah. So I mean, I thought they were ending the U.S. title thing at main event.
That's what I thought too.
I think so, because I know they're already bracketed out to, I think, like a one-on-one and a one-on-one match. That should probably happen this week, and then I think the championship should be on Saturday night main event. So maybe that's one of the other matches. But so Bianca Belair defeats Piper Niven, and the only way that Bianca does in an absolute feat of strength, and like I was saying before we record and everything, like I don't care if they put the big girls on the top rope. Either way, you have to have the strength to carry them, right? It's like the same thing back when John Cena took Big Show and Chris Jericho and did the same thing. Like, yeah, they're up there, but you still have to hold your body weight to do it, right? And so, I mean, just gives an absolute crazy KOD on top of Chelsea Green of all people. So that looked like it hurt. Like
that was a really that was a really
Chelsea,
great spot. That was
a
really great spot.
Yeah.
And I definitely can appreciate Chelsea Green's work. She knew where to position herself. She knew how to protect herself. She was playing in front of the hard cam. And
she did a pretty good job in that match.
Kudos to and just her taking that spot and protecting herself and protecting the opponents. She did. I mean, that was upper level ring IQ for sports entertainment. She just
totally agree.
There's certain nuances about that spot that I caught, and I was just like, oh. And the camp, it was very well done.
In the fact that essentially, even with obviously her ring positioning, Bianca still had to carry Piper Niven until to that spot.
Oh, so definitely. That probably took a toll on her.
I take nothing away from the absolute beast that Bianca is. Like, I want to see that beast unleashed. Like, just like you said, if we have this as a breakup, Easter egg with them two or something, like with her and Jade, like I want to see Bianca like come out in black, like no more flashy bedazzled crap, like, and maybe have her get a mean streak for a little while, like,
I would love to see a heel turn.
And again, not like who knows, what? It's not out of the it's not out of the ordinary.
Bianca, Montez, Dawkins, all of them just have a heel turn. They form their own little faction, and it's they become the new Hurt Business.
That's a man.
They become the new Hurt.
That'll definitely make some sense. That'll definitely be a good team.
Oh my goodness! What if that happened? But after SmackDown. After SmackDown.
One week at a time. We try to, but like I said, man, we have many. We're like the veins in the body, okay? Like we go left, right, up, down, spin around, do the freaking hokey pokey. But so LA Knight obviously lost to Shinsuke in what I thought was an absolute insult to LA Knight. Shinsuke of this whole year has 2 wins and 10 losses. Okay. And one of those wins obviously was for the United States Championship. So like, I thought it was cool that he came back with this whole dark character, but to have LA Knight kind of basically lose to a guy that's been losing. Like, I'm all for flipping your streak a little bit of losing a lot, but like to basically just poof, take the title away, and now it's on Shinsuke, who's taken more L's the year, like hasn't really done much. He just comes back and all of a sudden, poof, he gets the title.
Hey, I like the new look.
I love the
I mean,
new
I like
look.
the look.
I love that they're trying to invest into Shinsuke, and I don't care about LA Knight. Give me Shinsuke versus everybody. Black mist, black drool, black outfit, red eyeliner, whatever. Give me Shinsuke versus everybody.
I love the eye
Man.
paint.
Yeah,
You know, for once I'm outnumbered, and it's a rare occasion. like,
But
it's rare. It's a rare episode. It's a rare episode, guys. We're gonna have to put this like in a highlight reel. The one time in a long time that I am on the out.
I would have to say because they've disrespected Shinsuke for so long.
Oh, they have.
Oh, definitely.
And for him to come back and win a championship and just be like, boom, I got this.
I love the new theme, the new entrance, the red moon behind him. They're finally starting to use his New Japan style of him. Bringing that style to WWE.
They've been pushing, the strong style thing for a decade, and it's sad that it's taken this long for them to release it.
But that's because of who was running the ship.
Yeah,
during the majority
starts with the letter V and ends with an M.
Yeah, so I would like for this
V and ends with ins.
Yep, I would like for this to be a catalyst. You know what? If they can put a world championship on Damian Priest at his age, and more so, possibly Finn Balor, another singles championship or world championship, they can do the same thing for Shinsuke, for R-Truth, for Sammy, for Natalia.
He definitely deserves the title because I straight up told him in person, like, you deserve a world title, and he goes, I agree. I'm like, WWE needs to do it. He goes,
yeah,
tweet it.
Yep. I mean, it's because if we all want these underrated, over delivering superstars to get their props, I think that is the best way to do it, is to give them a championship run and have it mean something, and I think this step that they're taking with Shinsuke's direction, unless Shinsuke has other ideas for the rest of his career, I let him get up to those main event runs, and let him earn it, and not let him earn it, but let him show you that he has always been worthy.
So now, what about the whole bloodline after the fact attacking Andrade and LA Knight? Obviously not Shinsuke, but the bloodline just interjects themselves in wherever they feel like interjecting. Do you think this is let's say, a lead up to maybe a Shinsuke Jacob Fatu match?
No, I think this has more so to do with just it's that WWE recipe of saying of posturing, how they're they're positioning the story to say hey, you can mess with anybody, but leave this one alone. We've got something special. There's something special about Shinsuke. Let's not mess with him. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it's something like that, and the one person that I didn't see during that run-in for Bloodline 2.0 is I didn't see Tonga Loa.
He got hurt. He got hurt at War Games.
Yeah. Supposedly.
So that's why he's down. Yeah. I mean, Bronson Reed's definitely down. Dude,
was it breaking his ankles bad, or was it just my quad?
Did you watch the replay? Those legs buckled like freaking Aiden Hutchinson, dude. Those like, I mean, but what did you expect for the big ass Bronson Reed to jump off a top rope? And as opposed to splashing, he literally landed with his feet. And
I mean, it's something similar that happened to Adam Copeland. So I mean, it just
like
goes to show you,
people
like,
in that match got hurt.
it just
Yeah, it
goes to
was-
show you, like,
Jimmy, broken toe, you can survive.
I mean, but dude, did you see the replay on that though too? Like,
Yeah.
like you watched his freaking bottom of his foot literally just going like.
And
I
for
love instant
what's
replay.
his name, the other guy who hurt his arm, I didn't see how he hurt his arm.
You know,
but it's Tongaloa
Yeah.
or Tongaloa, yeah. It does. I mean, he's had some struggles since returning, and I don't know if it's
He's been
more.
having struggles in every company he's been with.
I don't know if it's
sloppy.
more.
He's sloppy.
I don't know
in the ring.
if it's. I don't know if it's character work or he's just over being a wrestler, and that's just how he can make.
I do not know. His brothers are a lot better. He's just getting a little sloppy.
No, but like, would you compare them coming back to kind of the it's what Angel Garza and who's in Legado?
Humberto or Berto?
Yeah. Like, do you think them coming like them? They kind of fit the same like parallel to those two guys. How like, you have Andrade who's the star, and then you have or not Andrade. What's his name?
Yep. Santos.
Yeah, and so like you have Santos kind of being the star, and they're kind of the supporting cast. They don't do a ton, but basically help out for the numbers advantage. And so
I think that's like that might just be like a trope or just how that goes in professional wrestling. It's like when you have a band, you have like the either the lead singer or the main character of the band, and then everyone else is just like supporting members of that entity that's like getting all the attention. So it's kind of like that. That's how I take it,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty common trope, honestly. Like,
yeah,
it's like the Saints. I mean,
yeah,
definitely would not parallel them with like the Bloodline, like
right.
OG, because Usos are literally one of the best tag teams ever. So,
right.
So speaking of championships, I'm glad I could segue that.
Mm-hmm.
But so DIY with the high IQ. So we've been seeing this whole DIY Fallout stuff for the better part of, let's say, the last like month, where you've kind of seen this more aggressive Tommaso, kind of a more guarded Johnny Gargano. And so we kind of seen the same thing happen on SmackDown versus the Motor City Machine Guns. And come to find out, we've all been played. And honestly, their acting over the last month of doing this whole like, beef issue, like I was believing in it. Like I was really thinking like, oh, we're gonna go back to seeing the old Tommaso, but then we come to SmackDown and we just see this whole like just Johnny kind of like gotcha. Like I love being surprised for once, in these little small moments in professional wrestling where you're like, I didn't see this coming, right? And so like I thought it was really fun. I think SmackDown seems to have a better, more polished tag team division than Raw does, just because the same people have been holding the titles for a while. SmackDown's moved around a little bit as far as the tag team champions, which I kind of love. And even if it's for like a month or two at a time, like I feel like the tag teams, much like the other secondary titles, are the workhorse ones that can afford to have for a couple months here and a couple months there. And so I liked how it happened. I thought it had some great storytelling. I really did. Like I was like, as soon as he pushed him, I was like, oh crap, here we go, and then it was all a ruse, and we all got. I mean, chuck it up to DIY. being DIY, and you know, and it was like the whole Tommaso thing was just a work. I mean, like he really wasn't like. I mean, they played dirty to win, but like
Oh yeah.
it wasn't as overly aggressive as we kind of seen, and so like it just worked out, and I think it was, you
Hopefully,
know,
if they're going heel, hopefully they got a new theme.
right.
Nice, good heel theme.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like basically heel entrances are basically just dark.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know.
Not happy themes.
No, but
Yeah.
I'll always be down for Ria's though. I'm sorry. Like side note, as we do. Like I really think that Ria's music entrance like is comparable to Stone Cold, because as soon as you hear "This is my brutality," like you know shit's going down, right? Like I mean, okay, yeah, it doesn't have the greatest thing with Stone Cold. I know what you're gonna tell me, but like, let's just,
you know,
like,
I
already,
you know
I
what?
already
I've
see
never
it in your eyes.
I've
It's
never
like, I
really
see
like
it.
been like I've never really been engaged with her like theme. Like her presence in the ring,
But I mean,
look.
like, I'm just talking about like when
Yeah.
her music hits, you know shit's going down, right? Like I'm talking like
But
from
that can
just
be
like
said
a.
about any,
I mean,
you
you
know,
got to have the right music with the right person to have that
right,
music
the
really
right
hit. I
music with the
mean,
right person. But you know, I think I'm
it
understanding
fits.
like
It
when
fits her.
right. You know what? I'm not saying that I won't dismiss it as it's not fitting her. I'm saying for me, it's just it doesn't get me excited for like what's about to happen with her on the screen, as opposed to like in comparison, just like you said, when Stone Cold's music hit, um, it was it was that whole era, that whole vibe was so brand new. And his music was just the
Well,
opening to his music was just so iconic. Like
do you
even
think
now,
it's
if you hear
more
someone
like?
break a window, you're gonna think like, is it Stone Cold? No, it's a
Well,
snowball.
and do you think it's more about the situations and when the music drops? Like just the impact when it hits. Like you have all the stuff going on, and there's a tussle in the ring, and then as soon as you hear you know, as soon as you hear their music hit, you're like, okay, shit's gonna hit the fan now. And maybe it's more situational times when like their music,
Mhm.
it hits at a certain point in a certain time frame and match set, or it's all about timing, right? Everything's about
Right,
timing. I
right.
mean,
And and sitting here thinking about it, daydreaming about it, it is just for me and me, I can't speak about anyone else. I know that there are a lot of people that feel exactly the way that you feel when they hear those opening words, "This is my brutality," and someone screaming. It's like, oh man, business is about to pick up, and get
right,
that whole vibe. For me, it's just her music for me has never been like it's never like really like got me emotionally, got me excited. It's always just kind of just been like, I wonder what she's gonna look like this week. You know, you
right.
know,
Well, and I think some of it, honestly, like me being a metalhead, honestly, like,
right.
and I listen to Motionless in White, who does the music for her,
Hmm.
and so maybe it just hits me different, just because,
I would say like
and
that that, but like,
you're more like Tippy Time.
uh,
It's
no.
Tippy time.
Oh my goodness. I I will say this when it comes to music.
Well, then, like, what's a wrestler that
It's
gets
CM
you?
it's CM Punk's using Cult of Personality. When that hits, I feel a certain way. And it's a multitude of feelings because one, I'm CM Punk is not my favorite wrestler, right? But that song is
No,
one is in my opinion is one of the greatest rock songs ever created. and I really love listening to that song.
It has a lot of depth.
It does, and I enjoy that song. And
The song, not the
so
wrestler.
yeah, it's
Tim's like, yeah, I like Drew McIntyre's music too, but I don't like him.
No, I do like Drew McIntyre. I do, but I'm not a hardcore fan.
Right.
But if I'm picking CM Punk or Drew McIntyre,
exactly. We know who
I'm in the middle liking the Miz. So you guys,
So
awesome.
I get it. I understand it, and I am not dismissing it. I'm just saying, yeah.
Different strokes for different folks, man.
Yeah.
And
I would, and I think if Rhea Ripley came out to the Barney "I Love You" song, I would still feel the exact same way. I wonder what she's gonna wear today or not put on today.
Well, and I think some of it too is like you have like some of these entrances that they're the quick aggressive ones, and then you have the ones that are slow and methodical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Kane's entrance or the Undertaker's entrance or Triple H's entrance, versus like John Cena, who's like, and he's just good and he just goes. So
what just hit me when you were talking about those is Finn Balor's entrance and Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance. When I would hear those entrances, I would be like, oh, business is about to pick up. I would get excited for what's going on. And those two songs, I really am attracted to. I really like hearing.
Well, I like the DMX one. I don't like the new one they put for AJ Styles though. I liked the DMX his entrance music versus whatever one they put up, a little bit ago when he kind of came back and kind of had this new.
I didn't hear it, and wasn't back long enough for me to hear it. That's why I'm kind of like, what? Because
they came back changed and then it up a little bit, but like I loved that slow methodical comes out and then like pop, you don't want none, none, like and I think obviously like it just like like you said, different strokes for different folks as far as like because like you do have those slow methodical entrances, you have those quick like out the gate entrances, and I think like the music just hits different for different people. And obviously people like different wrestlers, so like their music could be benign and monotonous and boring, but you like the wrestler, so like it has more impact to you versus someone else who likes the like instant boom, like so. But I mean, honestly, like I chalk it up though. I really do chalk it up to WWE and like the OGs of making entrance music, or like when they use another artist's music and they kind of modify it to fit them. And and I think it's cool when the collab, or even when you're doing your own entrance music. I mean, you're John Cena, you're HBK, and it's like some of these, Jey Uso, and so like I think it's cool sometimes when you put your own flavor to it and you're the person doing it. I mean, who doesn't all of a sudden like love HBK? You think they're cute, and I think it's I don't know. I love entrance music. I think like there's a lot put behind it. And I mean, even like, Rev Theory, voices for Randy Orton. I mean, like that song is so him. It's really mind blowing. I mean, like, and he like plays off that song and all the lyrics and stuff. Or like, I think it was when he was in somewhere. I think it was one of the PLEs in a different country, and like they were like singing his entrance music, and he was just like all about it. Like, and I think, that's all I really got. But like, so we have Saturday Night Main Event coming up on Saturday. We have essentially 3 confirmed matches. We have Cody and Kevin Owens for the undisputed title. We have Gunther and Finn for the world title. Liv Morgan, Io Sky for the women's championship. Obviously, we don't have a match for Nia currently yet. Like I said, I think the U.S. thing ends going into Saturday Night Main Event. So that might be the fourth match, but I don't know I don't know what the fifth or sixth. I think there's only gonna be 5, 6 tops. But I just don't know what's gonna get filled in. I guess I feel like we're gonna get these Mad Dash Rush matches. Maybe maybe we get to run it back with Braun Breaker and Sheamus or something, or maybe we get a Shinsuke versus whoever. I mean, so it's a weird time to fill in stuff because Saturday Night Event is the go home show for the year, moving into Netflix, in 2 weeks after that. So this show has to have a boom. It has to have something, whether it's the Rock comes out and does something, or we have to have something that pushes us into Netflix in the foreseeable week. Or I think, let's see what. So we got, so after main event we have 1, 2, so 3 or 4 shows, whatever, before Netflix. And so I think Netflix is January 6th, I believe. So that gives us, so we have 3 Raws after, main event. So, I mean, maybe we'll get something in those next 3 weeks. It's a wait and see, but they have to. They have to pique the interest moving into the pilot episode on Netflix. It has to happen, and if it doesn't happen, it's going to be a big miss.
Yeah, I think what they'll do for that is they'll lead us up. These are all transitional stories to gear us up for that Netflix pilot, that Netflix first show. And then the week before the Netflix show will be the last Monday Night Raw on USA for the foreseeable future, right? For at least 5 years, right? 5 or, I don't know how long the Netflix deal is going to be. With that being said, I think at least on that show, we're probably going to say some goodbyes to USA and the USA Network and thank yous. We may have a couple of hintings of some prizes on that Netflix show.
It's a 10-year deal for $5 billion. So we're gonna get this for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, just $500 million a year for 10 years. That is insane.
Yeah, definitely.
The fact that they have that kind of money is beyond me.
They don't have that kind of money. They don't have they have definitely not paid them $5 billion up front for 10 years worth of content. I think it'll be year over year. It's all right, this year you get your your payout. Now bring us in and keep people. But that's insane. That's really insane. And that, I think that goes to the power of
Netflix is worth almost $400 billion.
I mean, but that isn't liquid assets. That isn't available cash.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's not as much over 10 years because which is what I think every year they're going to get paid out. They are not getting
I was saying I could see WWE paying them each year.
Yeah, WWE is definitely getting paid every year for 10 years, $500 million. I mean, but
100%.
What else?
They're gonna, I mean, but either way, $500 million is a lot of freaking money.
When they go to Netflix like this, it will shock the system of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's because promotions will want to try to do.
Well, the thing is, I think now that I'm really thinking about the numbers, I really think because a lot of people, didn't have the live television stuff, So they were streaming after the fact. So I think that the numbers we're going to see on Netflix is going to be in the double-digit millions, or at least a high 6 or 7 million. Maybe okay, we'll be realistic. Like
That
I'd say at
first
least two.
show, I said that first show will not exceed 11 million viewers, 11 million people, or 11 million accounts accessing that broadcast.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Nothing more than 11 million. And I would say after that first show, it'll probably drop down to half.
probably like
So maybe between 4 and 6, and that's when it'll settle down into like the 3 or 4 per week. But
right.
that first show,
Either way,
that
we're gonna destroy everything else, though.
right, we're gonna,
And
yeah,
and
it's gonna be,
I
yeah. So
and I
that
know
first
I
show, I think that very first show will be like PLE level of entertainment
oh,
and
100%.
matches.
100%.
And I think everybody from all three brands will be on that show. All three brands will be represented. And there'll be some legends, I'm guessing. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean
I It would
it's
be
gonna be
hard.
treated like it's gonna be treated like not WrestleMania, not SummerSlam, but basically the next one. Like
Yeah.
this is gonna be top tier PLE level Monday Night Raw. And I think for that first one, they better come out with their with guns freaking blazing, and it better be freaking 3 hours because they need to pack this thing.
I would
And
not be
they
surprised if there's not a world championship title exchange or win, someone else winning a championship that night. Like I wouldn't not be surprised if Gunther loses that night or Cody loses. Um if Nia Jax loses, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I don't know if the United States and Intercontinental Women's Championships will be crowned that night, or it's going to be on Saturday
well, I
Night Main
think
Event.
the IC title thing is a little bit down the pipeline because they just started doing it. They're about 2 weeks behind the US title thing, so I think we're not going to see anything of that until I would say mid January. I'd say mid January we're going to see something. I don't know if they might just sneak in some new PLEs or something. I don't know. But I see the IC out a little bit longer than the US title tournament. Because I don't know why. Because I feel like they kind of had to do that, where they kind of staggered them a little bit, just
Right.
because you don't want too much of a good thing at the same time, and you kind of have to stagger them to make sure like one doesn't overshadow the other in the beginning. Like once they're on someone, and we're gonna go back to the status quo and back to
Mhm.
what we do. But I think we just like in the initial upbringing of it, I feel like it has to be special. They can't be at the same time. They have to be different slots. And then once we get champions, then we'll just go back to business. But
Yeah.
yeah, we just have to get to that point of getting titles on someone before we start jazzing things up. I mean, it's NXT did the thing with Kalani Jordan winning the women's North American Championship thing, and that took a while, like of her having a handful of matches before she lost it.
Mhm.
And I think that was the trial and error moment for the next two, the US and then the IC titles on the main roster. And it's good. It's going really well in NXT though, honestly. Like because now that kind of gives the main champion, which is Roxanne Perez right now, a little bit more like cool down point where like she doesn't have to continually be part of everything every week, and you can kind of put the workload down a little bit with a secondary title. And I think that's what it'll do on the main roster.
Mhm.
I think because we're gonna see a lot more of those titles being defended at least once to twice a month. And we're gonna kind of leave the top tier to like PLEs, I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think there might be matches on Raw or SmackDown for the title, but I don't think title exchange is going to happen unless it's on a PLE. But that's just me. I mean, I think that, like, when you're going to stuff all these titles on here, like, the top ones have to be on top shows. That's just what it is.
Agree.
So, I mean, you can leave the workhorses, you know, on the weekly episonics and leave the top tier. Like, let stories develop on the shows, but have it work into a PLE where the title's defended.
Right.
Because I think we're stacked up enough with storylines that we don't have to rush things. I mean, I think we're on a good trajectory right now, you know, in WWE with the storytelling and the long-term story booking or short-term. I think we're doing just fine. And so I think when you bring in those secondary titles, you'll give a little bit of reprieve to the champions. You know, we don't have to sit there and deal with Judgment Day every freaking week. And I hope to God we don't. But I mean,
same.
So
I'm
I mean,
tired of them.
Yeah, it's getting old, and the fact that they call it a clubhouse. What are you, freaking Dennis the Menace?
Yes.
Look at
Yes,
my
they
clubhouse.
are.
Look at my clubhouse. My sheets.
Oh boy, clubhouse! Yay!
Yeah, seriously, they don't even like walk around their titles. We spent more time watching them play PlayStation than them defending their titles. Is that not annoying as hell? That every time
It
they show
is,
their
and it makes you feel negative about them. So it adds to their heel aura, and you can't wait to boo them. And yeah.
Well, and like, you know, and let's be real, like, I don't know if I know you probably haven't, Frederick, but like Tim, like the new like WWE games, they're too damn complex.
I
It's
played WWE games all the way back to the Attitude Era when they were on the Nintendo 64.
Oh yeah, the good
I
old days,
played
like
it
the
all the way
OG PlayStation.
I played from WrestleMania 2000. I think it was Raw's War. I think it was one of them. Yeah, I played those all the way up to the PlayStation. When I was playing from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 3, I freaking enjoyed it. It was really great to play. And now when you go from PS4 to PS5 and all that, they make the game so fucking difficult. I'm like, I am not wasting.
You're on the ropes in a Royal Rumble and you're like pushing all the buttons. You have to like push whatever button to show up on the screen to like fall off. Like not just, you know, and then you're trying to pin him and they do this little spinny circle thing.
It's like, that's
stop overcomplicating a simple game.
I don't know. You got a lot of these people out there that diehards that fucking play the hell out of it and stream it on Twitch.
You know what?
Yeah, they can stay on Twitch. They can stick it in their Twitch, but and I'm back. Well, so you know, we'll just put a proverbial pin in this as we do, and kind of see, you know, what happens Monday and Friday, and then, you know, obviously we'll have more to talk about, you know, next week with Saturday Main Event, you know, plus Raw, SmackDown, all that nonsense. So, you know, we'll wait and see. That's the gist of watching wrestling, is it's a waiting game. So that's what it be. So I hope you guys all have a great evening, day, whatever time you're watching this. This is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.